I'm Craig Fuller. I'm here with Mark Shaw from the COLAB. COLAB is an incubator here in Chattanooga that really helps startups get going.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about what COLAB does for the community and more broadly what you do specifically for startups.
So COLAB is here to help increase the viability and capability of startups in Chattanooga and Southeast Tennessee. And so we're focused on areas around helping companies build, manage, and sell their products into the market. We're focused on helping them increase customers, capital, and capacity. And so any way that we can support the community of entrepreneurs here in doing that, we want to be helpful. We've identified some sectors where we think we have a core strength. And those sectors include healthcare, consumer goods, smart cities, and naturally, freight and transportation.
Yeah, you guys have done a ton to really help startups. How many startups go through the COLAB each year?
So each year we'll have 20 to 30 high growth companies that come through our various programs. And then we also work with 100 to 150 new organizations, kind of Main Street local growth organizations. So we really support the grassroots organizations, but also put a focus on high growth companies that can help really drive economic development for the city.
Now, are these, if a company wanted to get started and join COLAB, is it later stage, or are these really early stage, two-man in a truck type things?
Yep. Generally, we're working with early stage companies. I mean, we think about from idea to business. That's where we want to help you get. And so we do that by helping people think about their business canvas, identifying where their customers are, and finding a product market fit.
Got it. And is there any type of businesses that you guys don't invest or don't work with?
I can't say that there have been any companies or industries categorically where we don't work. Again, we try to employ that entrepreneurial philosophy around knowing what your activities are, building your toolkit, and knowing your objectives. And so we think almost any company, startup or really legacy company, we can help them find a way to address customers' capital and capacity.
Now, you're not making investments in these companies, are you?
No. We don't invest directly. However, we do have a product that we call our COLAB Capital Network. And so this is a network of investors and financial institutions across equity, debt, and grant-making organizations where once we work with a company and we feel comfortable what their needs are, we're happy to pick up the phone and make a call.
Now, are companies giving up equity to be a part of COLAB?
They are not.
So what do they have? What does it cost, or what's the model?
So the only cost to working with COLAB is a dedication to being coachable.
Okay.
And so there's no financial cost for companies that work with us. We are a public-private partnership between several local philanthropic organizations and government and corporate partners. But really, we're working with companies to help advance their place in the entrepreneurial trajectory.
So the state of Tennessee, the local city of Chattanooga, and corporations and nonprofit organizations are supporting the budget of COLAB.
That's right.
With the idea of economic development.
That's right.
And frankly, economic mobility for
Absolutely.
People who may not have access, particularly in areas that are not in Silicon Valley, where venture investments are getting started, or even direction and guidance is not as freely available as it is in other communities.
Absolutely. I mean, you get a great startup in a place like Chattanooga, and it really changes the trajectory of a community. It changes people's lives. You get a company that comes in, is able to raise capital behind a great idea, able to leverage a network of resources here in Chattanooga, and they hire a few hundred people. Now all of a sudden, everybody that touches those few hundred people has their lives improved as well. And that's the multiplier effect that we're trying to impact here in Chattanooga.
And they're not having to give up any equity, which is,
right.
that is music to founders' ears, of not having to pay for something, because cash is, in an early stage business, is in short supply, as well as equity. Nobody wants to give up equity to investors until they have a sustainable business model where it makes sense for them to raise venture capital. I want to talk a little bit about communities like Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Having been, I'm from Chattanooga, obviously FreightWaves is here, and we've had mixed results of getting, in the early parts of our business, we had very little support, frankly.
Yep.
As we've scaled and been successful, it's sort of easy to get on that bandwagon as a community. But I saw the struggles of cities like Chattanooga, of sort of, there's a level of cynicism that exists in smaller towns that haven't seen venture capital. And I even saw it the business started in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Did not know that.
We moved to Chattanooga because of the community and the ecosystem and freight. But when we first started, it was actually in Dallas-Fort Worth. I actually found that to be harder because you're competing against Toyota adding 5,000 jobs, or Charles Schwab bringing people in. These huge corporations are moving to Dallas, which really was great for GFW, wasn't great for a 4-person startup. But in Chattanooga, there was a lot of support. It was a lot of sort of support in terms of you could get meetings and you could network. There wasn't a lot of support for that venture playbook. I had to sort of figure that out on my own, and have had good guidance. But I'm wondering, what do you see that create successful communities that are in working with startups, and where do you see communities get it wrong? So
there's a couple of different phases, I believe, to building a successful entrepreneurial community. And I think a lot of this is information that I've heard from other communities that are at different stages. One of the things that I think is most applicable to what's happening here in Chattanooga is we are at the point where internally, folks, it may be beyond the belief of people that we can establish the next level of an entrepreneurial ecosystem. But at the same time, that people in your community are saying, we've come so far, is it possible we can go any further?
They just think we've tapped out.
We've tapped out.
All the good ideas, it's an old, I think the patent, there's this thing, the head of the patent office in 1900 said all the good ideas that will be invented have been invented.
Have been invented, right? Yeah. And similarly, in venture, you'll hear, there's no new idea I've ever heard.
Yeah.
That may be true. The difference is there are people that can get that idea done. And the ability to get the idea done is based on your experience and your resources, right? What kind of relationships do you have?
Yeah.
So people in Chattanooga, and cities like Chattanooga, it's not just Chattanooga, right? Cities that are smaller and haven't seen high growth companies, they question, can we take it to the next level? At the same time that that's happening, you've got people, and Steve Case came down here last year from Revolution, you got people that are from outside the region that are saying, not only do I think it can happen, I'm going to help make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, Silicon Valley is not ran out of ideas to fund.
That's right.
It seems like it's a unicorn born daily.
Right.
And a lot of these companies are quite young. Some of them have done technology innovation, but many of the ideas that we're seeing that are getting funded and are getting scale actually are business model innovation.
Yes.
Which is actually easier for a city like Chattanooga, where you may not have the deep level of engineering talent that you would have in places like the Valley or Boston. You may not have deep expertise in sort of artificial intelligence and machine learning, the things that sort of drive that, or even social media for that matter. But what you do have is the ability to do business model innovation with people who are on the ground. And I think about the folks that typically watch us here at FreightWaves or in freight and logistics. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about is Chattanooga being Freight Alley, which is the idea that there's a lot of transportation professionals and companies that get their start here in scale, unusually so. And so I'm wondering, when you look at a city like Chattanooga, and you look at the businesses that have been successful, and you look at the businesses that have not been successful, do you see trends in those businesses in terms of sector focus?
Yeah.
Or do you think it's more of you have a playbook and it's a shotgun approach of all different types of sectors?
So I think we have successful entrepreneurs in a number of different sectors. But where I think we really play to our strengths are places where we have an industry backbone. And so again, I think that's incredibly true for freight and logistics here. Right? When you talk about business model innovation, that's exactly what it is. It's taking something that you've been good at doing, right? In this case, it could be freight and transportation. We've got a strength in manufacturing. We have some strength in healthcare, right? And kind of the whole stack of healthcare. Now, how do we take people that have 30, 40, 50 years of experience, connect them with really young, innovative people, right? And connect those with resources, capital, to create a new paradigm. And that's what's happening. That's the opportunity for Chattanooga, right? You look at places like Boston and San Diego, the reason why healthcare is so big there is because they've got tier 1 research institutions, they've got incredible hospitals, they've got industries, large companies there that are funding innovation for new growth. They have people moving in and out of the sector, right? Sometimes I measure a city's strength by what are bartenders, what are Uber drivers, what are like people that are working kind of in the gig economy. Where have they worked in industry? You go to LA, every bartender can sell you a script. Yeah. Right?
Well, they're parking my car, but they came out there to be a Hollywood actor.
They came out there to be a Hollywood actor.
You go to Nashville, they want to be in music.
Right? You go to New York, every kid can tell you, what a balance sheet and income statement looks like, and they'll tell you about some banking deal.
Fashion, finance, or broad media is
That's
where
right.
you see a lot of successful in New York.
I guarantee you, if you walk into a bar here in Chattanooga, or you take an Uber out to the airport, probably 1 out of 3 times, the person who's taking you out there, if they're under 30 or something, has worked at a broker, right? Knows how to calculate a load, has some buddies, male or female, quite honestly, that have been in the industry.
And it's also, it's interesting you say that, because it is a destination job here, where you go to places in other cities and they're not destination jobs.
Right.
And they like, hey, I'm in this interesting trucking thing, I'm gonna be here for 2 or 3 years. It's a good job out of college, but I want to do something more aspirational. Whereas in Chattanooga, it's a sector that provides a ton of upward mobility in really successful companies that have scaled, and there's a lot of support in other jobs. One of the things I talk a lot about as when we are out raising venture capital, talking to VCs, they was asked, can you build a scale business in Chattanooga? And I say most businesses, the answer is no.
That's
like
right.
you could, there's a lot. We'll never win the biotech race.
Right,
We're not going to cure cancer in Chattanooga. Right. We're not unlikely to build real deep artificial intelligence in Chattanooga. So a lot of things we're just not going to do well here. But there are a few sectors where we have a distinct and competitive advantage, and I think freight and transportation logistics is a sector that the community should be supporting.
Absolutely. And so here's the real kicker when you take a long-term view on this, right? 10, 15, 20-year view. When you build a really strong core competency in a tech-enabled industry, like we're doing in freight and logistics, you start building a bullpen of people that can help you get good in other things, like curing cancer. Right? Because smart is smart. And when you get people that are smart and they're winning in a certain industry, they're going to attract people that are smart and winning in other industries.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, it could be that your next hot, young programmer in freight and logistics here makes a ton of money through FreightWaves, goes off and funds a company in a passion that's unrelated to freight, but now they've got capital, now they've got knowledge and relationships.
Ecosystems build, right?
Yes.
They cluster and they build. One of the things that happens is we have been fortunate enough to be able to recruit some really great talent from all over the country, and frankly all over the world to join FreightWaves. Many of those folks end up moving to Chattanooga. And the thing that always comes up, I get asked quite often, is if things don't work out, and look, not every business is, we have a very low turnover, which is great. A lot of it's just because when you're in a winning momentum business, you have the benefit of that. But additionally to that, the thing I always tell people, and it's true of Reliance Insurance that's here, it's true of Trident, it's true of all the freight brokers, is if things don't work out at one of these, there are 20 other doors that you can end up in. And I think that's what makes it special. And frankly, where you're not sector focused, if a company is in a startup community and they're the only company in that space, I had a payments company, we were the only real payments company in town. It was very difficult to recruit talent and frankly keep it because no one was willing to relocate to Chattanooga to be a part of our business.
Right.
However, here, everyone wants to, we have a lot of folks that want to relocate because it's a cool story, we're doing cool stuff, but more importantly, if things don't work out here, then there are other doors, and hopefully they've networked with people and stuff.
There's a great book called, I think it's Friend or Foe, right? It's about the dynamic between cooperation and competition. And when you're building a startup ecosystem, you've got to have some cooperation between yourself and other companies that are in your industry, because you're recruiting talent together, right? And you may lose some and get some here and there, but honestly, for the entire ecosystem, it's a net gain, right? And so I think that if you're going to be in a startup, you want to be in a place where other people are doing similar or related businesses, because the talent's going to flow from one company to another.
And the ideas flow, and we having drinks with people who are in the space, you end up getting a lot of ideas, and they improve. And I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I mean, at times, we'll hire somebody from them, and occasionally they'll hire from us. But it's good for the eco. If we're hiring people and they don't, they're able to go get successful careers there, it just helps everybody. I think hopefully we're good stewards. You have Startup Week coming up in a few months. It's early October?
Or October 21st.
October 21st. I'm sorry?
October 21st through the 25th.
And what is that exactly?
So Startup Week for us is a celebration creativity in the entrepreneurial community here in Chattanooga. One of our key values is around this maker mentality, and that really celebrates being a startup founder, being somebody that's identifying a problem and making or creating a solution to that problem. And I think FreightWaves is an example, in the same way that a new restaurant that meets a certain type of cuisine that the community hasn't seen. So we really want to celebrate the fullness of the entrepreneurial community, but we want to put a focus on some of our success stories here and places where we think we can really be successful going forward.
And it's not just celebration, you're actually providing actionable information for people that perhaps want to start a business or want to plug into the community to get going.
So it's a great place if you have an idea and are not sure how to get started and you want to get connected and meet successful entrepreneurs here in the region or support organizations from outside of the region and inside the region that are supporting those entrepreneurs. It's a must-be place for you.
Well, Marcus, thank you so much for coming in here. Direct and live from Freight Alley, we host folks in the community and folks that visit FreightWaves to talk about what's happening around transportation logistics and more broadly around technology and innovation. I'm excited to be here with Marcus.
Thanks so much,
Hope to have you back. Thank you for tuning in.